And my friends, our God is with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, Lord. On the same occasion, there were people present who told Jesus about some Galileans whose blood Pilate had mixed with their own for sacrifices. Jesus replied, "Do you think these Galileans were the greatest sinners in Galilee just because they suffered this? Not at all. I tell you, you will all come to the same end unless you change your ways. Or take those 18 who were killed by the falling tower in Siloam. Do you think they were guiltier than anyone else who lived in Jerusalem? Certainly not. I tell you, you will all come to the same end unless you change your ways." Jesus then told this parable. There was a fig tree growing in a vineyard. The owner came out and looking for fruit on it, but did not find any. The owner said to the vine dresser, "Look here, for 3 years now I have come out in search of fruit on this fig tree and have found none. Cut it down. Why should it clutter up the ground?" In reply, the vine dresser said, "Please leave it 1 more year while I hoe around it and fertilize it. If it bears fruit next year, fine. And if not, then let it be cut down." My friends, the good news of salvation. Glory and praise to our Savior, Jesus Christ. So tonight, I'd like to start with, I'm going to invite you to unmute yourselves if you know the answer to this question, except for Kathy and Kelly, they can't answer it. So if you know the answer, go ahead and unmute yourself and let everybody know. But here's the question that I'm going to ask. You know, as geese and ducks have begun their journey, their spring migration back to this frozen north, we see them flying in their renounced V formation. Why is one side of that V formation longer than the other side?
Because it has more birds.
Oh man, you ruined it. You got it. Because it has more birds. That's right. Thanks, Cassie. Humor has a way of carrying a message, right? A message that I think is kind of precisely what's happening in our gospel today. The questions asked of Jesus and the answers given by Jesus are quite obvious, similar to the birds in the joke, right? When Jesus is confronted with the gossip of the early Christian community and the judgment of those who were spreading the gossip, he answers the question with an obvious answer. Who is the greater sinner? The one who's calling the other one a sinner. You know, in AA or in recovery circles, we have a saying that says, be careful when you point your finger at someone because you have 3 pointing back at yourself. We also say we recognize most often in others what we know about ourselves. And in case we make a mistake tonight about our gospel, thinking that Jesus is referring to himself as the vine dresser in this story or the vineyard owner in this story, make no mistake, that would be incorrect because Jesus is actually referring to himself as the vine dresser, or at least to God as the vine dresser. The vine dresser is the one who begs for another opportunity to help the fig tree bear its fruit. All these chapters in Luke are filled with parables that are meant to carry a lesson, right? A lesson to make us stop and to help us to think about ourselves and our relationships with each other and our relationships with God. If there's a lesson to learn, I believe, from our gospel pericope tonight, it might be this: how we speak about others has power, and the speaker can build up or tear down. In Proverbs 12 and verse 18, it says this: some people make cutting remarks, but the words of the wise bring healing. It often seems in life that we always want to find someone that we can point to that's worse than what we are, right? Someone that we can blame for the shortcomings of the world and the shortcomings of society. And we find usually those shortcomings are the things that we recognize because they're a part of our lives as well. In my work and in my life, I've come to realize and to see and firmly believe that no one is beyond redemption. I used to believe that, or thought I believed it. And then I started working in prison, and then I really was challenged by it. But now I do believe it. I believe that absolutely no one is beyond redemption. It's unfortunate that it took 10 years of prison to figure that out. There is no fig tree that, if it's fed and nurtured and cared for, that doesn't contain within its the possibility of bearing fruit. But it must be cared for, and so too must we. One of the holiest men I know is a man that I met in prison, who at 17 murdered his dad and his mom and his brother and his sister. Most people would say, lock him up and throw away the key and never, ever let him see the light of day. And yet the man that I know, and the man I've come to know, has been the source of healing and transformation and forgiveness and accountability and hope and compassion beyond any person I have ever encountered in my life. As I was talking with him yesterday, and we were sharing our faith journey together and somewhat talking about this gospel story, at one point, Dave and I came to the conclusion mutually that in order to reach compassion, we have to be aware of our own brokenness. The only way to be a true healer is to know our own woundedness. Like the V formation in the joke at the beginning, sometimes the obvious is so obvious that we miss it. We each have a unique purpose in our lives. We each have a unique purpose at this time, in this space, at this point in history. We each have been planted here like that fig tree in the garden, and yet we need a vine dresser. We need a vine dresser who believes in us enough to nurture and to coax out our own holiness. I believe our God is our vine dresser, and I believe our friends and our companions in this journey of faith are as well. And I believe that every day is an opportunity for us to coax holiness from someone else. We are more than our mistakes. We're more than our sin. We, each and every one of us, are children of God, children of the great I Am, who invites us every day to the burning bush and to remove our sandals, for all of the ground that we stand on is holy. My friends, I wonder what kind of fruit that you and I are bearing for this world.